Welcome to Out from the Horrorbox. I'm your analog host, Dom. Last year, we started off with a sequel to a horror series that really helped to continue the handheld and anthology horror genres. The film we're about to embark on reviewing is a continuation of that same series. With 5 directors, David Bruckner, Scott Derrickson, Gigi Saul-Guerrero, Natasha Kermani, and Mike P. Nelson, and a premiere on Shudder October 6th of 2023. This is the 6th installment in the found footage horror anthology film series. This is VHS85. Bloody Disgusting announced in October of 2022 that VHS99 and VHS85 were shot back to back. The general manager of Shudder, Craig Engler, stated that the idea and premise of the franchise is to, quote, showcase both established and emerging horror filmmakers to terrify audiences with innovative takes on the found footage genre. Returning to the franchise after over a decade, David Bruckner has been spearheading this latest entry. Bruckner directed the standout segment Amateur Night from the first VHS, which featured the breakout performance of Hannah Fierman as a succubus. Bruckner more recently celebrated the release of his Hellraiser reimagining and the Netflix film The Ritual. The wraparound story Total Copy was directed by Bruckner and written by Evan Dixon. The director and writer of the segments No Wake and Ambrosia, Mike P. Nelson, is known for the post-apocalyptic horror film The Domestics and the remake of Wrong Turn. Popular Mexican filmmaker Gigi Saul-Guerrero directs and writes the segment God of Death, which includes the real-life earthquake that hit Mexico in 1985. She was asked aboard after directing both Bingo Hell and Culture Shock for Blumhouse, as well as an episode of The Purge, the series. Techno God is the next segment, written by Zoe Cooper and directed by Natasha Kermani, who saw huge festival success with her horror film Lucky. Our final director needs no introduction. Scott Derrickson, who recently had success with The Black Phone in 2022, has gained fame from The Exorcism of Emily Rose, Sinister, and Marvel's Doctor Strange. Has the series stalled out? Are there still fresh ideas left? Will this one be better than VHS Viral? All those questions will be answered in this episode, so turn on that CRTV, hook up your VCR, and pop in your copy of the tape.
So, why don't you just tell us where you got these videotapes from? Just tell us what they are.
We bought a video recorder, and that's when I had the first nightmare.
I don't think that you know what you're dealing with.
Give me that camera.
I started seeing these images. I recognized them.
Recognize them from where? Wanna tell me what's on this one?
Is that Beta?
Yup.
Nice.
If your god exists, does he require summoning?
Where did you get those tapes?
You saw what's on them.
A documentary narrator presents a story of a team of scientists at Stanford University studying a shape-shifting being they name Rory. This is the wraparound story and is cut between segments. We move to the first segment, No Wake. 7 friends. Rob, the person with the camera. Anna, Rob's sister. Jared, Anna's boyfriend. Drew, Robin, Kevin, and Kelly travel in an RV to camp at a lake. The friends are played by Alex Galick, Anna Hashizumi, Tom Reed, Toussaint Morrison, Anna Sundberg, Tyler Noble, and Chelsea Grant, respectively. The group ignores warning signs telling visitors no swimming. Rob, Drew, Robin, Kevin, and Kelly enter the water on a boat while Anna and Jared stay behind. As the group on the water take turns water skiing, gunshots hit and kill them by an unseen sniper on the shore. Moments later, everyone regains consciousness despite their fatal injuries. Returning to shore, they find their RV has the Roman numeral for 7 painted on it with blood. They also find Anna and Jared dead, and survivors conclude that the water in the lake has the ability to bring the dead back to life. Since they were the only ones in the group to go into the water, only they were resurrected. They decide to enact their revenge on their attackers as the segment ends. We cut back to the documentary, which reveals that Rory was found on the top of a butte in Brockton University to be studied by a team under the supervision of Dr. Spratling, who was played by Jordan Bell. Spratling hopes to educate the being about human culture. Rory is contained in a small room with a TV, which broadcasts, among other things, exercise videos, and Spratling is convinced that the team can communicate with Rory. Our second segment is God of Death. A Mexican news crew is preparing for the morning news at Ahorita TV. A massive earthquake strikes during the broadcast, which kills the entire crew except for the cameraman, Luis, played by Ari Gallegos. He is helped out of the rubble by a rescue team. They attempt to make their way out of the building, but are blocked from exiting by the rubble. A member of the rescue team, Javier, who is played by Gerardo Oñate, is mortally wounded in an aftershock. He forces one of his co-workers, Carla, played by Florencia Rios, to expedite his death. Carla, Luis, and 2 other men in the group, Miguel and Eddie, who are played by Felipe de Laura and Marcio Moreno, respectively, make their way through a crawl space where they enter a room where the walls made of skulls and a statue of an ancient Aztec god named Mictlan. Mictlan possesses Eddie, who then kills Miguel. Mictlan is played by Jose Maria Higuera. Mictlan materializes behind the possessed Eddie and kills him by ripping out his heart, which he then proceeds to eat. Carlos succumbs to the god's influence and kills Luis, ripping out his heart as an offering. The room eventually collapses. A surviving news reporter broadcasts from outside the building, saying that today, September 19th, approximately 7:20 a.m., will be a day to remember. The segment ends. Rory has begun to display the ability to mutate into and vaguely resemble a human body. The footage is interspersed with an interview of a scientist, Dr. Grayson, who had to quit the team. She says that when Rory's shapeshifting abilities were discovered, Spratling should have exhibited caution. The third segment is titled Techno God. A performance artist, Ada Lovelace, played by Siobhan Michelle, opens the show for a small audience in a theater. Ada explains to the audience that our world has killed God and replaced him with the God of technology. She shows a video of the demonstration of a virtual reality software device that allows its users to exist simultaneously on the physical and digital plane. Ada puts on the VR headset, gloves, and full bodysuit from the video, and then another video shows what Ada is seeing through her headset, depicting an electronic landscape. Ada performs an incantation to try to awaken the god of technology and taunts it as a myth. After a few seconds, a mysterious figure appears on the screen. Ada tries, but ultimately fails, to remove the headset and gloves. The entity attacks Ada with her injuries in the virtual world afflicting her in the real life. She soon succumbs to her injuries, and as the shocked crowd applauds, believing it to be part of the act, the cameraman removes the visor of the helmet, revealing that Ada's now exposed brain and facial tissues have merged with the helmet. Rory is shown sprouting a tentacle with spikes at the end. Later on, it is revealed that the tentacle is called the Feeler. Next, the fourth segment is called Ambrosia. The Wrigley family are hosting a celebration in honor of their teenage daughter Ruth, played by Evie Byer, who films the occasion with her cousin James, played by Mike Lester. Ruth's young relative Adam shoots her with a water gun, which he reveals was given to him by a lady in an RV that is seen speeding off. Later that evening, the Wrigleys reveal they're celebrating an old family tradition that they murder 7 people as a rite of passage, and Ruth has completed that. She produces a recording of the killing spree in which she murdered 7 people at a lake, which calls back to No Wake. Police sirens are heard as officers surround the family home. The family rushes to fight back, arming themselves with guns. Ruth's mother reminds her to ensure that she is not taken alive, lest it bring shame on the family. As the police raid the house and shoot Ruth's family dead, Ruth kills James after he confesses he is too frightened to fight. Ruth is then gunned down by the police. As the coroner examines the bodies, Ruth revives and, in shock, shoots the coroner. Ruth shoots herself in the head but remains alive. She is arrested in great distress. The video then shows Robin, one of Ruth's victims from the Lakeside Massacre, filling the water gun with water from the lake. Gary, one of the scientists, played by Miller Ty, becomes disturbed when Rory takes on his appearance. As Gary is the only one in the group that has never had a face-to-face with Rory, Dr. Grayson, played by Kelly Garner, calls for an emergency meeting. She says that Gary has never been in the chamber, then deduces that Rory can see through the one-way mirror that divides its containment and the study room. While Grayson expresses concern, Stratling sees it as a miracle, arguing Rory is breaching beyond its restraints to make contact. Grayson explains in an interview that Stratling did not deserve what happened to him, but that he brought it on himself, and that she primarily sympathizes with the people Stratling took with him. Lastly, the fifth segment is Dream Kill. A home invasion is seen from the point of view of the killer. The woman inside can be heard on the phone with the 911 operator. The killer eventually finds her and proceeds to tie her up with duct tape, slit her throat with an electric meat carver, and slice her eyes open with a straight razor. After the police arrive at the house, the lead detective, Wayne, comments to his partner Bobby on how the murder scene looks familiar to a videotape he received at the station a few weeks prior that showed a woman being murdered the same way. The detectives are played by Freddie Rodriguez and James Rincon, respectively. Another video from the killer's POV shows him making his way into another home, and, after fighting the man inside, cuts off his fingers. The killer murders him, peeling off a piece of his leg and cutting his chest open. Police arrive at the home, and again, Wayne explains to Bobby that he had already seen footage of this murder in a tape he received 4 days ago. Wayne tracks the source of the tapes and captures the person responsible for sending them, Gunther, Bobby's son, who's played by Deshelle Derrickson. When Gunther is interrogated about the tapes, he claims that he saw the murders take place in his dreams, and his dreams were being manifested into the tapes. He sent the tapes to the station as a way to warn the police. Wayne does not believe the story, but Bobby explains that their family has a psychic gift that lets them see the future. His sister committed suicide after being driven crazy from seeing them, and Gunther's cousin, Gwen, had the same psychic dreams when her brother was kidnapped. A final tape is found, which reveals a third murder, with the victim having been dismembered and decapitated. Bobby and Wayne recognize the home in the tape and go to investigate. Outside the home, Wayne confronts Bobby about having known his connections to the murders. The woman murdered in the first tape and the last tape both accused Bobby of sexual assault and stalking. The man in the second tape was an attorney representing them. Wayne also tells Bobby that he learned how Bobby had to turn in his badge after the woman accused him of sexual assault and stalking. As Wayne pleads for Bobby to tell the truth, he shoots Wayne in the head, killing him instantly. Bobby then heads into the house to commit the murder from Gunther's dream. While at the police station, Gunther looks into the visor of the camera in the interrogation room and learns that it's playing back his dream. Bobby arrives back at the station and finds Gunther, who realizes that his father is the killer. Gunther reveals that he already knows how this ends, having just seen it in a dream. As Bobby attempts to kill Gunther, police officers arrive and open fire at him. Bobby fights back and kills them, but is then killed by Gunther. Rory is unresponsive to stimuli, which Spratling interprets as being sick. Dr. Grayson disagrees, saying that if Rory is as intelligent as Spratling says it is, then Rory could be manipulating him. Later on that evening, Grayson abandons the study. She tries to convince the others to follow her, but is unsuccessful. The documentary narrator reveals that while authorities have shared footage of what happened at Sammer University, the documentary will not show it due to the disturbing nature of the images, a concern for the well-being of the viewers. The tape cuts to black, revealing that the footage was property of Sammer University, leads to the show with no intention of distribution. After Grayson leaves the group, Spratling sends Gary into the room to give Rory an adrenaline shot. But before he can do so, Rory exposes its feeler and wraps itself around Gary's arm. While Spratling and Porter are able to get Gary out of the room, Rory sprouts another feeler that it uses to drag Gary into the room to kill him. Porter suffers the same fate. Spratling and the cameraman run to escape, but due to blood on Spratling's hand, the door scanner cannot read his handprint. Rory's feeler extends to the hallway and kills them both. Rory then pulls the cameraman's corpse back into its room, where it has assumed an alien form and is manipulating the corpses to mimic the exercise videos shown on the TV screen. In lieu of any major trivia that I could find on, VHS85, I decided that, I want to talk about the major connection that this movie has to another film, one that I just reviewed and is up for you guys to go ahead and check out. It's the first one for this year. It's The Black Phone, which was also directed by Scott Derrickson. It's so crazy. I didn't know this going in. So when I was watching it, I kind of had this sense of familiarity with the way that the dreams looked. They're very he does it kind of with he did with Sinister, but that actually was supposed to be on film. But with The Black Phone specifically, the way that it looked, it had this very film quality to Gwen's dreams, and it was the same thing here. It looks like somebody took an old one of those old cameras that you can run and gun, and you can shoot. I remember being in film school and having to use those. Those are big, clunky, and they're hard to you have to get the film in in the little tent, because you can't expose it to light or else it'll just ruin the film. But yeah, I had the sense because I didn't know going in that Scott Derrickson directed this one specifically, but I had the sense that there was something familiar about the story and then when it got to the end part where it was he's Gunther's talking about, it's his dreams and how this and that, and then his sister killed herself because of the dreams, she suffered from it too, this and that. And then when they said his cousin Gwen suffered from it too, or has those dreams or whatever, that's when, and they were talking about how she was able to use those as a way to help her brother who was kidnapped. I was wait a minute, that's got to be the Black Phone, isn't it? And as it progressed and we saw his dreams and that, it was starting to line up where he's looking in, seeing what's happening, and it's happening in real time. And then it got to the end and I looked it all up and I'm wait a minute, this does connect. And it's really crazy. I love when people do this. When they, and I kind of talked about it in that first review of the year, the review of the Black Phone. Like, I love when they can do like a story that ties into the universe that's not necessarily a sequel. Like, you wouldn't call this a sequel. Like, Dreamkill is not a sequel to the Black Phone, but it takes place in that same universe, and it's more of like a companion story too. It involves a whole host of other characters that we never got to see. It's set, I'm assuming, because it's 85. I think the Black Phone's like the late 70s, so it's got to be like at least like 5 to maybe like 7 years apart from what happened before. And it's just kind of crazy that like it just pops up, and if you weren't expecting it, it's a nice surprise. I love it. I think that people need to do this more. Like, if the next VHS had, and that's what the previous one kind of did too. If you haven't seen Deadstream, go check out Deadstream. Deadstream. It's on Shudder. It's like all like kind of like the like POV like handheld also, but it's amazing. It's hilarious. It's a really good time. But I guess some of the demons from that are also in the end of the previous VHS 99, and the last one where it's like Go to Hell or whatever, or To Hell and Back or something. But yeah, like, I love when they connect things like that, little things like that, where like, oh, this guy, he's in this. It's like, it's that character from this. Like, I mean, it's not the same thing here, like, but I love that it connects back to, and it would be kind of cool to see like in like the sequel to the Black Phone, like a connection back to this would be pretty cool. But yeah, like I love that Scott Derrickson did this. That he was like, you know what? I know I'm not done with the Black Phone, the universe. I'm going to make a sequel, but you know what? In the meantime, I want to make this that just kind of gives you a little taste of like what else we can do in the universe, what else we can do with this kind of sandbox and playing around with all these different ideas and different states and stuff. Yeah, it's a pretty good like little Easter egg. I mean, it's a major Easter egg. The whole story is an Easter egg, but it's really good. It's a really good little thing that I love that he did for just like for a VHS, right? For the 6th installment for VHS. Let me just throw in something from a film that I already did. I love that. Like I said, I wish more people would do that. Kill Counter. We have arrived at the kill counter. This is the part of the podcast where we go through the kills and deaths in the film. VHS85, just like most of the films in the series, has a high amount of kills and deaths. This film has a staggering 38 total kills and deaths. That's the amount I counted because I normally don't count anything off screen, or like if somebody like dies and comes back, I don't count any of that. So let's get straight into it. We'll start with we'll go segment by segment. So starting with total copy, there's 4. At the end of the film, Rory, the shapeshifter, uses its tentacles to attack the group monitoring it. Gary's dragged away and ripped apart. Margaret is slashed through the neck by one of Rory's tentacles. A cameraman is disemboweled by Rory's tentacles as well. And Dr. Spratling has his throat slashed by one of Rory's tentacles. In No Wake, there's 2, because like I said, I'm not going to count the people who died in the water and then came back because they're not zombies, but they're not dead, so that's why I don't want to count them. While waiting on the shore of the lake for their friends as they water ski, Anna and Jared get shot to death by Ruth with a sniper rifle. In God of Death, we got 10 when the earthquake hits. Lucia de Leon has part of her face smashed open and is crushed by debris, along with 3 unnamed males and 1 unnamed female. The rescue team gets to Elise and helps to try and get all of the survivors out. Javier is impaled through the back by a steel bar during an earthquake tremor and head smashed by Carla with a crowbar. Miguel has his throat slashed after being struck in the neck with a crowbar by a possessed Eddie, who then commits suicide by slashing his stomach open with the crowbar before having his heart ripped out by Michelin. Luis has his heart ripped out by Carla as an offering to the god, and then she is crushed by the falling debris as the god of death causes another tremor. In Techno God, there's only one death, and that's Ada, after summoning the Techno God in the virtual space. She's violently ripped apart with wounds manifesting in the real world. In Ambrosia, we get 11 confirmed deaths from the Wrigley family, as they have a whole tradition of killing, and when the police are tipped off that they killed a couple of people, they all, except for George Wrigley, go on the offensive and grab their guns. All the family members listed are shot in the crossfire between the Wrigleys and unknown police fire. That's Amanda Wrigley, Hank Wrigley, Jeannie Wrigley, Carol Wrigley, Suzanne Wrigley, Art Wrigley, Jeff Wrigley, James Wrigley, Christopher Wrigley, and Ruth's mother, Mrs. Wrigley. Poor George Wrigley wants nothing to do with this murderous family, and unfortunately he's shot 3 times in the chest by Ruth Wrigley. And finally, with Dream Kill, we got 10 deaths. In a dream, we are in the point of view of someone breaking into a house. We hear a woman calling the police and explaining that a man has broken into her house. Karen, the woman from the phone call, is hiding under her bed, but is discovered by this unseen perpetrator. He slits her throat with an electronic knife and gouges her eyes out. In another dream, we see from the same point of view of the unseen killer, who's broken into another house, and he is confronted by an unnamed male. They begin to struggle, but the assailant cuts the unnamed man's fingers off with an electronic knife before brutally mutilating him. Wayne Johnson, the main detective, figures out that his partner Bobby is the unnamed killer. Wayne is shot through the forehead by Bobby. As Bobby goes on a rampage throughout the police station, he goes on to dismember a woman, slices the throat of an unnamed male officer, and shoots various parts of 3 unnamed male officers. Bobby is then shot through the back of the head by his son Gunther, giving us the 10th and 38th kill of VHS85. Man, that's a lot. I'm trying to think of like the previous ones, and like, yeah, obviously like the second one that has Safe Haven has a lot of deaths. But other than that, I'm not really sure if there's that many deaths in like a lot of these other ones. I think this is like the highest one besides that one, because there's a lot of like random like kids and people here and there in the compound. So this is a pretty high one for the franchise. There have been 6 films in the VHS franchise so far. And of those 6 films, there are some that are better than others, and I have updated my rankings of which is my favorite. Let's start with the one that I consider the worst of the franchise, VHS Viral. It's at the bottom of the barrel of the whole franchise. Honestly, I love Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead. Everything they've made has been phenomenal, except for their segment in Viral. I'm not a fan of that one. It is a mess of a movie. I think I understand what they were trying to do with it, with the whole viral thing and the circular thing, and of the tapes in the end with the ice cream truck, and I don't know. It's still kind of confusing. Definitely last on my list. There really isn't a redeeming segment in there at all that I can think of. On the top of my head, I can only remember the magician one, the alternate world one where there's like the monster vagina and monster penis. I don't know. And then obviously Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead segment where they like summon some monster. I don't know. See, like, it's very forgettable. Not my favorite at all. Next we have VHS94. This isn't a terrible installment. It invigorated the franchise and has a pretty good wraparound story. Where I think it falters is that besides the first and last segments, everything else is forgettable. If you really like this one, I respect that. But I think the other films in the series have like better like stories, better segments. Honestly, I'm like trying to sit here and remember as much as I can from that one, and I always get confused because I'm always thinking of like either 99, because 99 I'll get to it, but that one was pretty good. And then I'm like, wait, that wasn't in this one, wasn't 85? No, that one was 94. I don't remember. It is there like the same thing with VHS Viral. Some of the segments are very forgettable. I think there's more segments in that one than any other one. I think that might be why it like you kind of forget some of them. And then here's where I'm putting VHS at 85. Not because it was bad, but the wraparound story was just kind of fine. I kind of wanted a little bit more from it, especially with like the whole shape-shifting thing and like the secret tapes from like the university and this and that. I feel like you could have done a little bit more. I think Dreamkill though is the standout with like No Wake, God of Death, and Ambrosia really hitting like that good like VHS like segment that reminds me of like the earlier installments, the first two, but it doesn't nearly hit as hard as like I think that like some of these could. I feel like some of these you could have done a little bit better. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little bit overly critical with it, which I could be. But when you see what the next ones are, you'll be like, I think I agree. Because the next one is VHS 99, which really stands out amongst the newer films. And let's get out of the way, the wraparound is just fine. I think that doesn't hold up as well. Like with the whole like little clay figures or stop motion he's making, and then it ties into Gawker's one of the segments, but I do think that the segments really shine in this one. So Suicide Bid, Ozzy's Dungeon, To Hell and Back, all amazing on their own. Even the one I would consider the weakest, Shredding, is like honestly not terrible. I want the producers to give the future installments the same level of time and care for the individual segments to shine. And I think that's what happened here. I think because they were trying to come back from, they had just come back with 94, and they were like, oh, we got to give it like 99 sounds like more of like a, we're going to send it off, like we're going to go big. Take the time to make these a little bit better. There's only 4 segments, and I think that's like the perfect amount. Honestly, you could go maybe one more, but I think that's still pushing it. And even less could be a detriment to the quality too. Sometimes look at, that one had 4 also, but it only had 3 segments. But like then it had like another one kind of tacked out, whatever, in Viral. But honestly though, like I want more like this. I think more like 99 would be pretty good. Like I said, I wish the wraparound story was a lot better. I wish it would kind of go back to like what the original ones did, or even something like 94 did, where it had like I think it had something to do with like the cult and like them watching the tapes and stuff. So it actually, like, I don't know. I just want more like that and more like 99, like where like they give us like these quality segments again that are like a little bit better than like, well, I mean, I'm not saying that the ones that we've been getting are terrible. I'm just saying like you can tell with this like Suicide Bid, Ozzy's Dungeon, To Hell and Back, they all stand out in my mind. as like these great like segments. Those are the ones I think of when I think of like the more recent ones. So VHS 2 was my favorite for the longest time. Safe Haven takes up the most time and honestly should have been maybe its own film. But now that I sit and think over the first two films again, and I was like, ooh, should I put this one here? Should I put that one there? But this one has these segments. This one has that one. I got to put it at number 2. There are only 4 segments, and 3 of them are like kind of just fine. When I was looking over it again, I was like, yeah, this one has like, I mean, the first segment's pretty good. Safe Haven, man, that one like really is what knocks this one out of the park. But like the zombie one where he's like the cyclist, it's kind of forgettable, and I don't remember what the last segment is, but whatever. But I do really like that the wraparound connects back to the first film. I think the quality did get better, a step up from VHS, but it really was this one that kind of started giving us less of that analog look that some of the newer ones have started to get back to, and kind of sucks that, you know, they didn't try and get us back to that wraparound story that, like the with the house and everything. I would love to see more about that. Like, what was it? Like, we got something with like a cult in 94 for the wraparound, and it has something to do with the tapes and something, right? Like, but like, can we go back to those and like explain what that was about? I'd love to see more of that. Like, I'd love to see more of just like that world that those wraparounds were giving us. And then let's just get into what my top VHS is. VHS, the OG, the original. You got banger after banger for their segments. You got Amateur Night, Second Honeymoon, Tuesday the 17th, and The Sick Thing That Happened to Emily when she was younger. They're all amazing stories. The fact that Amateur Night was adapted to its own like feature-length film, Siren, shows just how much that first segment was a home run for the series, like out the gate. I mean, the last one is... What's the last segment on that one? I don't remember off the top of my head. But it's just crazy that like when you think about VHS, like these ones are the ones that you're thinking of. You're thinking of like with the succubus. You're thinking about like Tuesday the 17th where they can't see the guy on, only with like the camera and it's like distorted. With like the aliens and all that. Like it's weird and crazy. Second Honeymoon, where it gives you that weird twist where it doesn't have to be supernatural. It could be something more mundane. And this, I just remember watching that first one and being so like, whoa, this is so good. And the wraparound story is pretty okay. I think it's fine. I think I like the second one's wraparound a lot better than this one, because this one is just like them breaking in. They see that old guy, but then I do like that it ties in with the second one too. But whatever. I know I'm just rambling on and on, but the original one is just so good, man. Like, I'm like, that's why I was like going back and forth, and I was like, I don't know if I can put this one at number 1 or do I put number 2 at number 1. But you know what? When I was sitting thinking about it, I was like, you know what? Reading just the list of like the segments, I was like, yeah, you know what? If you were to ask me which VHS would you recommend, that's kind of what I determined. I would just say, first, watch the first one. Watch the first one. If you don't like the first one, you're not going to like the rest of them. And then if you liked the first one, watch the second one. If you like the second one, then I would say skip number 3 and start watching the newer ones. Then go back to 3 if you want to, but really, it's really that first one that's going to get you, whether or not you're into the series or not, because you're just not going to get it if you don't watch that first one. And so overall, though, with VHS85, and this is going to be where I'm going to my final thoughts about the movie. It's a great installment in the series. And, you know, I love that it finally, like, corrected itself, right? Like, we got to VHS viral, and it was such a letdown of a movie. I just remember feeling so, like, why? Why did you do this? Why didn't you give us more of what we wanted? 94 comes out. Okay, yeah, this is back to where it was. 99, whoa. Now you're doing what we want. And then this one, I was like, okay, see, this is really what we've been wanting. This is what people who are fans of VHS have been wanting. More of this. Give us more. I mean, sure, it's not VHS or VHS2, but it's doing its own thing, like the producer said, bringing together people who are excited and willing to get into horror and do what they need to do, what they want to do, and give us something good. So, you know, I'm glad Shudder sees the potential for this series. They saw it back with 94, and they're seeing it now with 85, and they're like, we're going to keep going with this. I really want more segments like Dreamkill, things, you know, that connect to other things. I would love, like, for other directors and artists to come in and write these stories and give us these segments that maybe they connect to something that they did before. But, you know, and honestly, though, I will say, too, hopefully we can get better wraparound stories. Hopefully the next one gives us something really good. Something that's not just some dumb stop motion that leads into a segment. Something that's just not like, okay, it's like this kind of weird, what is it? It was like a, like, transforming blob thing, alien that can mimic people, but they didn't really... They just had a watching exercise video. So, okay. It's like you're going to create this cool, like, looking alien thing, but then you don't really do anything with it. It's just sitting on the couch the whole time. I don't know. I give VHS85 3.5 stars out of 5. That's right, guys. 3.5. I know it sounds like a lot, but to me, 3 is very middling. If I gave it more than, like, that extra half, because I would be like... I'd be lying to myself. It's not that good. It's not 4 out of 5. The way I look at it, 3.5 is perfect enough to just say, like, it was pretty good. It was a little bit better than good. You know, really go watch on Shudder if you like VHS. Was this your favorite VHS so far? What did you think about the connection to the black phone? What year should they do next? My vote is for 1990, but that's only because that's my birth year. We want to thank you all for listening, and if you like what you hear, please subscribe to get every new episode downloaded. Do you have any personal or fictional paranormal, supernatural, or unexplained stories? We would love to read them on the podcast. Please send your stories, recommendations, or anything else to horrorboxpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to show more support, you can always follow our socials on Instagram, Threads, or TikTok @HorrorboxPodcast. Also, you can buy me a coffee at coffee.com/HorrorboxPodcast. It really helps out. We'll see you next time and hear what comes out from the Horror Box.
Is that Gary?
Special boy.
How do you account for this?
I don't know. But it's an acknowledgement of us, which is something. Want to see it again?
Gary did not want to see it again.